Hello YouTube, how's everyone doing? It's Professional here. So today I got a crazy current events story for you guys, and oh man, this story is just so ridiculous. One of the dumbest articles that I've read. So a viewer of mine has sent me over a Kotaku article in which they were reviewing the single-player campaign for Modern Warfare 2, and they were complaining about ridiculous things, saying that the game was making them physically uncomfortable, and they actually accused the game of being offensive. Yes, they accused Modern Warfare 2 of being offensive, and you're probably wondering, what the hell is offensive in this storyline? That's the same thing that I was thinking when I was suggesting this article, but their reasoning is really dumb, and we'll get to this. But anyways, this article is pretty long, but I'm only going to read the important parts here, the stupid parts, which they're complaining about dumb things. But anyways, let's start this off. And also, I'll be talking about the story in this game, so there's going to be spoilers. So if you didn't beat the story, I don't recommend watching this video. But anyways, let's start this off here. The plot cynicism of the United States military and private military companies, which emerges in the second half of the game, at the very least, makes the story feel less dry and a little smarter than I assumed it would be. Though any merit it could have earned by suggesting the very obvious fact that the military-industrial complex is prone to making the world a worse place is dashed when you're engaging in violent behavior that feels uncomfortable, even for a game where the whole point is to make blood pour out of the little holes in your enemies. What? What the hell? What kind of description is that for the game? But anyways, Shadow Company is a private military company that's in the pocket of General Shepard, and when General Shepard's missiles get stolen, he tries to use them to cover up the evidence for that. So you do have an evil private military corporation that you're fighting, but also the military-industrial complex was actually the main enemies in Advanced Warfare. In Advanced Warfare, you were fighting a giant arms company that had its own mercenaries. That was the whole plot of Advanced Warfare, is how big and how far can a private military industrial company go. And that was the whole plot of that game, but it looks like they didn't play that game. And also, when they say make the blood pour out of little holes in your enemies, what? This is a first-person shooter. It's you fight other enemies, you fight other soldiers, you fight players in the multiplayer. That's, the purpose of Modern Warfare. It's, it's a war game. But the way to describe it, blood pour out of little holes in your enemies, is weird. But let's keep going here. The difficult, questionable levels of violence begin early on. Oh no. The game's second mission, Killer Capture, requires you to not only clear out a building full of wounded soldiers who can barely raise a gun at you, but it also tasks you with murdering someone grieving over the body of a person your forces just killed. And no, you can't just walk away. Though they grab a weapon themselves and fire at you, they are clearly cowering in a bathroom and are not dressed in military garb. Yet you have to kill them for the level to continue through to the next sequence. I was physically uncomfortable playing this scenario. Oh my god, who was playing this game? Who was doing this review? I'm starting to think the person should not be playing first-person shooters. They shouldn't be playing M-rated games. Maybe this person should be reviewing rated E and rated T games, not rated M games, that they can't handle it. They can't handle this? Then I can't imagine how they would handle Outlast Trials. Outlast Trials is a new game that's coming out not too long, and Outlast Trials, you basically get chased by serial killers. If they can't handle this, wonder how they'd handle a game like Outlast. But anyways, let me play for you guys the clip right here. So this is from my playthrough, and for people that are confused, I dress up as the characters when I do playthroughs of the game, so you'll see me in the corner of the screen. But anyways, this is the scene that they're referring to.
Ghost, building 2 secure.
Roger. Time to hit the crash site.
Got a video for San in here.
Okay, so you guys saw that scene right there. You have a woman who is grieving over the body of a terrorist and then picks up a gun and tries to shoot you, and you have to shoot her to get through the sequence. What Kotaku isn't showing you is they're not showing you what happened before this scene. Let me show you guys a clip of what happened before this scene.
There's one in that hallway.
One in that hallway? I got him, though. Oh.
Ghost, enemy rockets down.
Solid copy.
So basically, that's that. As this building opened fire on you and your squad, it was a bunch of snipers that were held up in the building, and they were shooting at you. These guys were not just soldiers. I like how the article just describes them as soldiers. These guys aren't just soldiers. They're terrorists. These are terrorists. These are cold-blooded killers, the people in this building. And they are working with an Iranian Hassan who who they didn't find out yet, but stole American missiles and is planning on doing a terrorist attack in the U.S. That's the whole point of it. They're trying to stop Al-Qatala, and they're trying to stop Hassan. This building was opening fire on them. And also, as for this woman that shoots at you, she's grieving over the dead body of a terrorist, which is probably either her boyfriend or her husband or possibly even her brother. But the thing is, though, is if she was a hostage, she would have just ran to the special forces and said, help, help, help. The first thing she wouldn't have done is she wouldn't have picked up a weapon. She's a terrorist as well. Yes, she is a terrorist as well, and she's a clear threat. She's shooting at you. If you don't shoot her, you die in this sequence. And that's the point in Modern Warfare's story. The Modern Warfare has these scenes in to show you that these are cold-blooded terrorists. They pretend to be like civilians oftentimes. They do things like this. If this idiot had played Modern Warfare 2019, they would have remembered there's plenty of scenes where Al-Qatala does sneak attacks on you. There's that scene when you're going through the building early on in the game, that apartment building in London, and then there's that woman that gets taken hostage, and then she pulls a gun on you. There's also that scene where that woman pretends to be a hostage, but she's really trying to detonate a bomb. There's several scenes like that. There's another scene I remember where an Al-Qatala soldier is wounded and waits until the U.S. soldiers get near him to open fire. So there's plenty of sequences where they feign attacks to try to lure you in and try to kill you. These are terrorists. The point that Infinity Ward is making here when they make stories like this is that this isn't a game where when you just fight enemy soldiers, you see the enemy right in front of you, you know where the enemy is. But when you're fighting a terrorist group, you don't know where the enemy is. And terrorists use civilians as human shields. They hide within a civilian population. That's the point that they're making here with sequences like this. And also sequences like this, it adds more life to the story when you have scenes like this. It shows you the brutality of war, but it also shows you how evil this group is. That nobody in this building was innocent. They were all out to get you, and they were bad people. But anyways, let's move on from this sequence. That's not all. A later mission has you literally shooting people climbing the United States border wall in Texas. Here you're playing as Mexican Special Forces tracking down cartel members who are wrapped up in the overarching narrative. These are technically the bad guys you're shooting, but the gross imagery is still there. You are shooting at people climbing a border wall, an United States-Mexican border wall of all places. How anyone fought regardless of the narrative wrapping, this is in good taste, is beyond me. Okay, you are playing as the Mexican Special Forces. You're not playing as the border security. You're not playing as any kind of federal U.S. forces in this. You are playing as the Mexican Special Forces, and you are chasing Hassan, who is literally trying to cross over the border and is trying to link up with an Al-Qatala cell where then they're planning on using missiles and deploying them in the U.S. So these are cartel members. These are dangerous guys. They're all armed. All of them are armed in this mission. All of them try to kill you. And then it says how anyone fought regardless of the narrative wrapping, this is in good taste, is beyond me. Look, things like this happen in the real world. I'm not talking about the whole Hassan thing, but I'm talking about the cartel is a massive threat on the border. They are a massive threat on the border. They dig tunnels. They have storehouses like they do in the campaign. They hide drugs in innocent people's cars. They will find somebody that crosses the border back and forth, like an English teacher, for instance, that might cross into Mexico. And what they'll do is they'll hide drugs in that person's car without that person knowing, and they'll put a GPS tracker on that car. The reason they do that is so that if the person gets caught with the drugs, they have nobody to snitch to because they weren't involved in the thing in the first place. And on top of that, that person is less likely to get searched when they're crossing the border because they're going between the border almost every single day. So the cartel are a massive threat. And a lot of these guys are heavily armed. They have dug tunnels under the border. They do a lot of crazy things to move drugs across the border. So this is an actual real-world issue. I'm not going to get into immigration. I'm not even going to talk about that at all, guys. This is a gaming channel. I stay away from, politics and stuff like that, but I'm specifically talking about the cartels here. The cartels are a massive threat on the border, and this game depicts that. This game clearly shows that. There's nothing offensive about that. There's nothing wrong about that, showing how much of a massive problem the cartels are actually on the border. But anyways, let's read the article because it goes further. This Texas-level borderline doesn't stop there. Not only does the game literally ask you to de-escalate potential standoffs of armed American civilians by raising weapons at them, you do end up having to kill civilians who are armed and think they stand a chance against fully suited special forces. Okay, this is so wrong right here. Okay, So you encounter basically a few groups of civilians when you're crossing over on the border in this game. The first group of civilians you encounter is you're trespassing in the backyard of this trailer home, and this guy just comes out and just says, you know, what the hell are you doing? You don't even need to point a gun at the guy, and the guy will go back in the house. The second civilians that you encounter is you see that Hassan actually just broke into a house, and you see the garage door closed. You run up the street, and you get into that house where you get this scene right here.
Párate en la puerta.
So yeah, this is very dangerous, them going house to house. I understand why they're doing it, but they could say special forces, but the people in the house aren't going to know that necessarily.
Drop your weapon.
Whoa, whoa, whoa.
Get the fuck back.
Okay.
Now.
Don't shoot! Don't shoot!
The men who came through here, where did they go?
They went that way.
Vamos.
You do not have to kill the person with the bat in this scene. If you point a gun at him, he will actually stop. And remember what Alejandro says. Alejandro says that we are in people's homes. Be careful here. Now, what Alejandro and Rodolfo are doing in this situation, this is kind of wrong, but it's understandable at the same time. They are looking for Hassan, a dangerous terrorist who just crossed the border. They have to break into people's homes. However, the people that live in the homes have no idea who Rodolfo is and who Alejandro is. And so if somebody breaks into your home in the middle of the night, you're going to be wondering what the hell they're doing in your house. That's the whole point, is it's to show you you're going through house to house. So of course you're going to encounter some civilian resistance, and you don't have to kill any civilians in this mission. Later on, you actually get ambushed by cartel when you're actually going down the alley. Take a look at this scene right here. Oh, what the? Oh.
Despejado. Despejado. Mira, se fueron por ahí. ¿Estás bien?
Now this scene, this is the scene that they are talking about. They are saying that you encounter armed civilians who you have to kill. If you point the gun at both civilians, at both of them in this case, they will not reach for a weapon. They do have a weapon, but they will not reach for the weapon. If you point it at them really quickly, you point back and forth, they won't reach for the weapon. Now, these civilians, I'm not fully confident that these civilians are actually innocent, because what does Alejandro ask them? Alejandro asked them where the stash house is, and they know where the stash house is. So these civilians are actually possible cartel or possible cartel informants. But again, you don't have to kill them. You don't. The person who wrote this article clearly did not play this level fully, because you guys see from my gameplay, you don't have to kill them at all. Now, this next part, guys, this next part is the most ridiculous part. It says, then when the cops show up to racially profile you, a cop in a cowboy hat literally says to Mexican Special Forces, it's hard to tell you boys apart from the cartel. If you shoot them, it's game over. Fade to black with a warning that friendly fire will not be tolerated. Okay. Let's play that scene for you guys right here. Let me play that. Oh yeah, this is exactly what I was talking about.
Drop your fucking weapons right now!
Solo haz lo que te dicen. Nosotros lo arreglamos.
Understand? Step forward to me. I want to see empty hands above your head. I will shoot you if I have to.
I'm Colonel Alejandro Vargas of Special Forces. We're after a known terrorist.
Gomez, hold up. These are her guys. Hard to tell you boys apart from cartel. Where's your suspect?
Track them.
Whoa! So look, I'm gonna tell you something right now. The person that's writing this article clearly has an agenda. There's no rational thinking behind this, because the person who wrote this article isn't even thinking about why the cops showed up in the first place. Remember at the beginning of the mission, Alejandro tells Laswell to tell the police, the local police, that they are crossing the border to chase Hassan right now. So the police have been tipped off about that. But also on top of that, Rodolfo and Alejandro have broken into multiple homes. So they've broken into multiple homes. They're wearing tactical gear, and they're pointing guns at people. Again, they have to de-escalate the situation because one guy comes at them with a bat, and in another situation, you have two guys that could possibly reach for weapons. But what's going to happen is somebody's going to eventually call 911. You have two guys with, tactical vests breaking into homes. Somebody's going to call the police. And on top of that, when you're in that alleyway and the cartel just ambushed you, a bunch of people just got shot. There was a shooting. Everybody in the neighborhood heard that. Of course, people are going to be dialing 911. And so look at when this is going on. This is going on at night. This is not in the daytime. This is at night. At night, things are harder to see. So what happens is the police pull up and they see two guys running up the street with tactical gear and assault rifles or submachine guns. So of course, the police are going to stop them. Any cop in this situation would have stopped Rodolfo and Alejandro. This was not racial profiling. And look, I'm not an idiot, guys. I went to school for law enforcement. I have a bachelor's degree in law enforcement technology. I didn't end up pursuing that. I did YouTube instead. But what I will say is that there is racial profiling that goes on in real life, obviously. There's racist bad cops out there that shouldn't be cops, and they should be in jail or they should be fired, depending on what they did. However, though, in this case, this is not racial profiling because you see two guys, like I said, running up the street with tactical gear and assault rifles. You just were called about two guys breaking into homes, and also there was a shooting a few blocks away. So of course you are going to stop these guys. Any cop would stop them. And what are Rodolfo and Alejandro wearing? What are they wearing? It's at night. Look at it closely. Rodolfo is wearing just a white sweater with just a vest on. Alejandro is wearing a uniform, and you can see the patch. But again, it's nighttime, and so they would have a hard time seeing this patch down the street, especially at night. So the reason that the police stop you, it's not to racially profile Alejandro and Rodolfo. The reason they're stopping them is to find out who they are and their potential, to check if they're a potential cartel. And when the cop says, it's hard to tell you boys apart from the cartel. Now, I don't know what the cop was saying here exactly, but what I believe the cop was referring to, I don't think that this was actually a racist statement. What I think the cop was actually referring to was, I think he was referring to the gear that Rodolfo and Alejandro wear. Like I said, Alejandro and Rodolfo are both heavily armed. And what happens? Let's take a look at this screenshot right here. Right after the cops actually get hit with an RPG, what happens? Look at what the cartel are wearing. They're wearing very similar gear. They're wearing tactical gear, just like Rodolfo and just like Alejandro. So when the cop says, it's hard to tell you boys apart from the cartel, that's what I think he was referring to. I don't think that it was a racist comment, as Kotaku is saying. Like I said, I don't know 100%, but I don't think that was a racist comment. I think the cop was just saying dress similar to the cartel, and that's the point. I think the point they were trying to make. But anyways, additionally, who is the cop that actually ends up arresting Alejandro? The first cop that ends up arresting Alejandro is actually Hispanic, Gomez. So I don't know what this article is trying to talk about here. And when they're saying if you shoot them, it's game over, well, of course, you're not supposed to shoot the police. You're not supposed to. You're supposed to work with the police to stop the cartels. The cartel and Hassan is who your enemy is. That's who you're supposed to stop in this mission. My God, it's like, I just don't have any more words for it, guys. It's just these guys, the people that wrote this article, like, I can tell that the people that wrote this article, they have an agenda. I can tell that they clearly don't like the police. And we're going to finish up the article. As I said, eventually, the game's tone changes a touch. The private military company you're working with early on is, surprise, surprise, run by an a-hole who has the support of the U.S. military dude who's trying to cover up his own illegal behaviors, and your crew is double-crossed. That second half features both the game's best gameplay moments, as well as the story's most entertaining and interesting beats. It manages to make a cast of characters who otherwise do little more than gruffy say words like actual contact and negatory, somewhat memorable. The excellent facial animation, visual fidelity of the cutscenes also stand out. After finishing the campaign, I found myself itching for more of the game's combat, but sadly, all I was left with was a boring as hell opening set of levels that are only loosely made up with a level structures lifted from other AAA games later on. My God. So, you're complaining that this game is, you're complaining that the game has disturbing scenes, like when the female terrorist tries to shoot you, and then you're saying that the game is too similar to other AAA games? And I have little desire to play through the sequences where I'm shooting people who don't feel like a threat. who was not a threat, really. If you're talking about the woman, that she was clearly a threat. If you're talking about the civilians in the home, you can de-escalate the situation. You don't have to shoot them. I guess there's a multiplayer to look forward to, but this campaign is a wildly missed opportunity for those who enjoy military-themed first-person shooters. Oh, man. Yeah, so I've been talking some time about this. Oh, I think I'm going up to half an hour on this article here. But what I'll say, guys, is that the way the cops were actually cuffing Alejandro in that situation, I thought was pretty realistic. Because in real life, stuff like this actually happens in real life as well. When cops need to identify somebody's armed, and they need to identify somebody, they may put them in handcuffs and take away their weapon until they figure out who that person is. If there's a defensive shooting and the police arrive, the police might put the guy in handcuffs. They'll tell the person to drop the gun. When the person's a civilian who just defended themselves. They'll tell the person to drop the gun. They'll put the person in handcuffs until they figure out who is who and what just happened. That is realistic. Stuff like this happens. It even probably happens to other law enforcement. Like, other law enforcement may try to disarm other law enforcement and put them in cuffs until they realize what's going on. So I didn't find anything unrealistic about that situation. I just didn't see racial profiling there. I just don't. It's just, in my opinion, guys, I just don't think that was racial profiling. I don't think it was. And remember, it was the same cop who literally stopped you was the same cop who ended up telling Gomez not to cuff Alejandro. So, it's like I said, guys, I don't know what the person writing this article was thinking. You know, they clearly didn't play the game. They didn't play the game fully, because then you would know that you don't have to shoot those civilians that are in the house. But instead, of course, you know, these people are just ignorant. They're stupid. They have no idea what they're talking about. And this is exactly what I'm talking about, is how did gaming journalism get this bad? Like stuff like this. I just don't get it personally. This story was just ridiculous, and I'll tell you guys, in this time they spent, saying that the game was making them physically uncomfortable and accusing the cops of being racist, do you know what they missed? They missed the actual racist in the storyline. And who is the actual racist in the storyline? That is actually Graves, the commander of Shadow Company. Now, more than halfway through the game, Graves actually betrays you. When he betrays you, he accuses Alejandro of being in league with the cartel, and then he takes over Alejandro's base and has all of Alejandro's guys, all the Mexican special forces, just thrown in prison. And then there's that really messed up mission afterwards where Soap is trying to avoid Shadow Company. The mission is called Alone, in which Graves and Shadow Company are just rounding up innocent Mexican civilians and just executing them, killing them in the streets, accusing everyone of being a cartel member. A civilian in the street, a cop in the street, they don't care. And the comments that Graves makes in that mission clearly shows that he's a racist.
Look what we got here.
Tenemos más policía. Cops helping cartels. Let's show them how we handle corruption, yeah?
Happy to, sir.
They're just killing everybody, not just cartel.
Shut the fuck up. No más habla. This is going to look muy familiar to usted.
Escúchame, cabrón. You are making a mistake muy fucking grande.
You like working for narcos?
Esto es territory de las casas.
You like money? No. El dinero, hombre?
Please.
Graves is rounding up cops.
He's judge, jury, and
So-
executioner now.
Graves is clearly taking pleasure in that, and he's enjoying what he's doing. Graves is just a messed up person. He's a sociopath. He's a terrible person. But Graves is the antagonist. Graves is the main bad guy. This is the guy that you fight against later on. And most players hate Graves. Graves is an absolute scumbag for what he did. He's the guy that you fight against and you defeat at the end of the game. I don't know how they missed this. This guy was racist, and this is the guy that you fought and defeated at the end of the game. You know, he was made as a character for you to dislike him. Graves was made for you to dislike him. It shows what a scumbag he is in the second half of the game. But thank you guys for watching. I hope that you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, drop a like. You know, I'm just so tired of this gaming journalism these days. I don't feel like these gaming reporters don't actually play the game. This person didn't play the game thoroughly who wrote this article. And, you know, I'm not calling for anybody to be fired or something like that. I don't want anyone to lose their job. But what I'm going to say is, next time that you write an article in a game, make sure you get somebody that actually knows what they're doing and actually played the game fully. Because if you actually played that mission fully, you would have known you don't have to kill any civilians in that mission, but instead they just said how you're going door to door just killing people. But thank you guys for watching. I hope that you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, drop a like, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Take care, guys. Have a wonderful day.